show on the right. Council will come to order. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. I have one quick announcement that I want to say first before we lose anybody, but I want everybody to sing happy birthday to Mr. Powell. It's his 75th birthday.
Yeah. Oh,
you ready?
Revealed
1,
it.
2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Powell. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So, Gloria, where's the cake?
He's still kicking. All right. The next item on the agenda is our invocation and pledge. So if you would please welcome Pastor Paul Elgin from Presbyterian Church. Pastor, thank you for coming tonight.
I'm not going to make you sing. This prayer was first offered in the Philadelphia City Council meeting, October 2011, by the Archbishop Charles Chaput. Let us pray. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service and remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and the dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the spirit of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Paul. Thank you, Matt. All right, Gloria, let the roll call show that all council members are present.
Mayor McFarland, for minutes tonight, we have the regular City Council regular meeting minutes from October 1st. We have the Healthcare Benefits Trust Board of Trustees minutes from July 20th, the Park and Rec Advisory Board minutes from August 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes from September 6th, and the Board of Appeals minutes from September 12th. I move approval for the regular meeting minutes and except for the record, the balance as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are all approved. Claims against the city?
Mayor McFarland, I move for approval of claims against the city for September 26th through October 9th as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
I abstain, Mayor.
Okay. Note, Lisa's abstained. Claims are approved. On the meeting agenda, I am going to make a change. Larry, do you have any changes? Okay, I'm going to make a change to move item N, which is our reports, to precede item M, which is the executive session, so we can let everybody go home. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, seconded, as with the noted changes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All righty, so tonight's meeting agenda is approved. We do have a special presentation tonight. I'm going to go down front here.
I thought that was your birthday present.
The been for, I think, in excess of 13 years. Was the city liaison to the 2010 census, making sure that our count was accurate. She also led the city planning staff on the general plan, the 2020 plan, which won an award from the Arizona chapter of American Planning. She was promoted to our community development manager, where she led the city's efforts to merge the city's housing program and our CDBG entitlement programs, which I have had the fortune to be with her on at least 8, maybe 9, maybe 10, I don't know, houses that we've rehabbed for our local citizens. It's a great program, and she does a wonderful job at it. She's also instrumental in coordinating the city's participation in our point-in-time count, which is our city homeless count that we do each year. So with 13 years of service, Lila DeMarie has really dedicated herself to the city of Casa Grande, and I really want to please give her a warm welcome, and as I ask her to come up here. First of all, for all of her service, she gets to retire with a beautiful citizen watch. Thank you. And I also want to give her this plaque. This is, and I should have taken the plastic off.
Her husband's a big, that's her husband.
Yeah, looks better without the plastic. I know, it's hard. So the city of Casa Grande recognizes Lila for her outstanding service, August 22 of 05 to October 12th, which was last Friday, 2018. Again, congratulations.
I promise this will be short. Thank you, Mayor, council members. But before I proceed, I'd like to ask the permission from our city manager if I can download 53 slides for my final presentation. Just kidding. Okay, kidding aside, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to you all and to the city of Casa Grande for the opportunity to serve the people for over 13 years. It has been a wonderful experience, which I will treasure for the rest of my life. While the mayor and council have been supportive over the years, I would like to give special thanks to Councilman Powell for always going the extra mile to support my programs and me. I can only say that I am proud of my accomplishments and being a part of this organization. Maraming salamat, Casa Grande. Thank you, Casa Grande.
I just want to comment, one of the things I remember so much is when the annexation wars were going on, and Eloy and Casa Grande were vying for land out around Toltec Buttes. And I had gone out there and was trying to get the signatures and the people to come, and she would keep score. And you had to have 50%, 51% land value and 51% population. And I'd say, did we make it? No, 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 you need so many more. And she'd crack the whip, and I'd go back, and we got it done, didn't we? We got it done, and she's really been a blessing for our community, and we sure appreciate you.
Okay. Lost my place. Item G. So all the items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion, one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to.
I move adopting G as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbon.
Yes.
Councilmember Parsons.
Yes.
Councilmember Lanetta.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harmon.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay. Next section is public comments, and I do have one request. Mr. Peter Redwine, if you would like to approach the lectern and state your name and your address, please.
Peter Redwine, 1940 North Hubbard Lane, Casa Grande. And thank you for your time. And basically, just wanted to update the City Council and the Mayor that my wife and I are pursuing opening a new business, a family entertainment center. We're trying to get the lease on the Ashley Furniture Store space, and we're currently in the financial stage. So if we can build community support with this, we're basically selling a percentage of the business in order to kickstart the financing, and we're going to get a loan for the rest. And basically we hope to have 20 lanes of bowling, about 7,100 square feet of roller skating, 2,500 square feet of laser tag, vintage arcade, party rooms. It's going to be something that's never existed here. But Casa Grande's of a size that it needs something like this. And every one of the 100+ people that I've talked to so far about this says, well, Casa Grande needs this. And so we've identified the need and we're trying to fill the need. So we're an LLC, and we're, in order to avoid conflicts with securities law, we're selling a percentage of the business in order to generate that financing. So it keeps us out of hot water with the ACC and the SEC. And we're just talking to people one-on-one or in small group meetings about it. Our next meeting is tomorrow night down at the VFW at 6:30. And we'll have copies of our business plan and equipment that the different vendors that we're going to use have shipped to us to put on display, so you can see what kind of equipment we're going to have in place there. So we're really hoping to be open mid to late summer next year. So it's about a 6 to 8 month build out in that space once we get the financing fully funded. So if the council or mayor had any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. But
Yeah, I'm sorry we can't, because it's
Okay.
not an agendized item, but
Understood.
good luck.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Maybe,
Thanks for
maybe
coming,
we'll
Peter.
see you tomorrow night. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Anyone else? The floor is still open. This is open to the public. Anyone? Okay, seeing no one, then we will close the public comments and move to item I, award of contracts, and consider ordinance number 3098. Kevin?
I'm going to wear a different hat tonight for Mr. Hardesty. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize the city manager to enter into a job order contract with SD Crane Builders Incorporated, administrated by the Gordian Group Incorporated, to make renovations to the South Operations Center located at 200 East First Avenue in an amount not to exceed $235,771, plus a 20% owner's contingency of $47,154 for a total project not to exceed $282,925. As you are aware, Carmack-Nat Park is going through a major upgrade, master planning upgrade, and the existing park maintenance division shop will be eliminated from that site. So we need to find a suitable location for them to house their maintenance operations. Previously, the South Operations Center was part of Public Works, and Public Works housed several of their divisions out of that facility until we fully utilized the North Operations Center and moved most of the operations out there. We are using, considering contract number ADSP 017-174291-EZ. And this is probably the quickest way we can procure the different number of subcontractors that are going to need to come into this facility to do the upgrades that we need. This building has basically been not been utilized, and this will be an opportunity for us to really revamp the entire facility to make it a really good maintenance facility for Parks and Rec Department. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Matt?
We didn't have an open bidding process? You did it through a different?
So it would have been very difficult and time-consuming to bid this out. We did it using a job order contract, and they were able to come in and give us a bid for every piece of it. We're the general manager, but they're going to be managing the project. We're still doing several parts. The roofing contract, and I think the painting contract is being done by us. These were things that we could manage ourselves. Those are both going to be local contractors. But the other ones, we couldn't manage that many moving parts. And Steve has a big enough project managing the new rec center, so we volunteered to help move through this process as quickly as we could. So that's why we're taking advantage of this job order contract.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just what are the nature of the upgrades?
From HVAC, flooring, ceilings, restrooms, pretty much everything in the place is going to be renovated.
Okay. It needs it.
Southside renovation, that's a good thing.
And it does fall right in line with the council's strategic plan.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, I'll consider ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3098, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from SD Crane Builders, Inc. for South Operations Center facility upgrades, authorizing the expenditure of public funds in an amount not to exceed $282,925, and authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to SD Crane Builders, Inc. in accordance with the terms submitted to the Arizona State bid list.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3098 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please, on ordinance number 3098?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortzen.
Yes.
Councilmember Varela.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, we'll move to item 11, which is a public hearing. L1. Mr. Tice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Stephen, could we, thank you, appreciate that. There's our PowerPoint. This agenda item pertains to an amendment to the Bella Vista PAD. It is a major amendment that's going to modify the land uses in approximately 74 acres of the PAD. The remaining 6 acres that are down in the corner, the hard corner of Cortzen and Peart, will not be modified. This graphic compares the existing PAD that's approved to the proposed amendment. The area that's being amended are essentially areas A and B on the left. They were currently approved for single-family land uses. Area A are single-family lots with a minimum width of 55 feet. And in Area B are lots with, I believe, a minimum width of 65 feet currently. The change is to take a portion of Area A and convert it to a multifamily land use with a maximum density of 18 DUs per acre. That change will not affect all of Area A, but probably about 2/3 of Area A. The other change is to modify the remainder of Area A and Area B and to leave it as single-family residential, but with a minimum lot width of 55 feet. I'd like to point out, though, with the amendment, though the approval that's being sought here is to allow to have lots with a minimum width of 55 feet, those lots, in fact, won't all be 55 feet wide because of a standard in our PAD residential design guidelines that says that for every lot of less than 7,000 square feet, there has to be an equivalent number of lots with at least 8,000 square feet. So the applicant is asking with their 55-foot wide lots to make them essentially 55 by 115, which would be 6,325 square feet. So every lot that they create that's at 55 feet wide, they'd have to have a corresponding lot that has a greater amount of square footage. Typically will be a lot that's between 65 and 70 square feet, 65 and 70 feet width with over 8,000 square feet. So for every one of 55, an equivalent lot will be created with either somewhere between 65 and 70 foot width. For the multifamily area is 20 acres. I mentioned that the maximum density would be 18 dwelling units per acre, and it would be equivalent to our R3 in terms of uses allowed, which might be duplexes, condominiums, townhomes, walk-up flats, various types of multifamily structures would be allowed there, depending on really what the market demand really is at time that it goes to develop. Additional change for this PAD amendment is to introduce Colorado Street going north from Courtson up to the northern boundary. Staff has been working to try to get Colorado aligned as a new north-south collector to relieve some of our arterials, and the two PADs to the west of this have recently been modified to accommodate Colorado Street. Now this PAD will also accommodate the extension of Colorado north of Courtson. I mentioned that the PAD design standards require that for every lot that's under 7,000 square feet has to be matched with another lot of over 8,000 square feet. And how staff would ensure that that actually would be achieved is this particular requirement, which is the entire single-family residential area be reflected on one preliminary plat. When we get the preliminary plat, it will show us a layout of those lots, and we can ascertain that the lot balancing between lots less than 7,000 and over 8,000 were in fact met. Again, we expect that the lots less than 7,000 will be 55 feet wide, essentially. Those that are over 8,000 will be somewhere between 65 and 70 feet wide, depending on their depth. The other PAD design standards with minimum side yard setbacks of 5 and 10 and a minimum open space of 15% will all be confirmed to be met with the preliminary plat. The one thing I might note that we will not know at this point in time and we won't know until the preliminary plat is processed and brought before our planning commission, is where in fact those 55-foot wide lots and the larger lots, the 65 to 70, where they would be located, whether they be intermixed with one another or segregated into two separate areas. Typically, development occurs with a segregation of those lots of sort of similar size. So we would expect that the developer would come in with a preliminary plat showing us one area of 55-foot wide lots, another area of lots that were between 65 and 70. So the smaller lots in one area, the larger lots in another. Logic tells me that the smaller lots will be probably in the south area near the multifamily, and the larger lots will be on the north part of the PAD, although that is not locked in stone at the current time. In fact, this is an example of actually my neighborhood where that in fact happened, just to show you an example of how a typical subdivision layout might happen with grouping of 50-foot wide lots, in my case, 60-foot and 80-foot lots, and this happens to be McCartney Center. For the multifamily development, the PAD imposes a max building height of 35 feet on the multifamily buildings. However, it restricts maximum building height for buildings that are 50 feet or less from the single-family boundary to 28 feet. So multifamily buildings that might be close to that northern boundary between the single-family and the multifamily would be restricted to 28 feet in height. There's also an additional landscape buffer that's been imposed along that north boundary between the multifamily and the single-family of a 20-foot wide landscape buffer with evergreen trees planted 30 feet apart in a triangular fashion to create a better transition between those two land uses. Graphically, this shows you a little bit what that would look like as the multifamily structures would step down in height as they approached that common boundary with the single family, and that landscape buffer that would be on the multifamily site of 20. The single family would have another 20-foot rear yard, so you'd have a minimum of 40 feet. Likely you might even have a street in that area as well, but we don't have that particulars at this point in time. So when the staff and the planning commission review any amendments to PADs, we evaluate all of the criteria that are in the zoning code, and they're on the screen, and we've evaluated all those criteria individually in your staff report. I just want to talk about the three highlighted ones very quickly here. As far as the relationship of the proposal to conditions on and off the site, what we really look at is how does this proposal fit with the surrounding land uses and surrounding zonings. So you can see the multifamily, in our opinion, fits very well as a transitional land use between the commercial and the arterial road of Quartzen and the intervening land use up to the single family. So we think the multifamily fits well from that kind of a look. As we look to the east, we have Peart Road, which is eventually going to be a 6-lane arterial. But across the road on Peart Road, on the east side of Peart, we have commercial land use on the hard corner of Quartzen and Peart, and then we have some high-density residential already zoned in that area. So we think that multifamily fits very well as we look to the east across Peart, and then as we look to the west across Colorado, we again have a commercial site that's already zoned there, so we think that works well. The single family that would remain in Bella Vista really has a single family plan for it to the east and to the west, very similar type of single family development. So we feel that the land uses within Bella Vista that are proposed are very compatible with the land uses that surround it and are already zoned, although primarily vacant land uses. The site sits within our neighborhoods land use category. Neighborhood land use category does allow for, of course, single family up to 4.5 DUs per acre. on sites between 40 and 160, so this project does fit that category. And multifamily is a permitted use on sites less than 25 acres. This site happens to be 20 acres that's being proposed, and the density is allowed to be up to 18 DUs per acre, which is what the proposal is for this site as well. We've talked a little about traffic planning, transportation planning, and how this PAD amendment will accommodate the future extension of Colorado north of Cortson. I mentioned that the Marylands modified their PAD to allow that, and we're looking to further extend Colorado up to Rodeo Road with future developments. One other interesting aspect of this PAD amendment on transportation is that the property line for this property, like many other vacant properties, is in the middle of some of our arterial roadways. The property line is actually in the middle of Peart Road and in the middle of Cortson Road, as you can see on this graphic. Typically, our typical code requires that developers dedicate the what we'll call half-street right-of-way for like Peart and Cortson Road at time of building permit, at time of development. And the developer or the contractor who's building the development is required to dedicate that right-of-way and build the half-street improvements. The Bella Vista PAD currently, as approved, has a different standard imposed on it when it was first zoned PAD, and it says, as you can see on the screen, upon the first phase of development, full half-street improvements required for all of Peart and all of Cortson. So that's a fairly difficult standard because, for example, if that commercial built on the corner, that first phase of development would require total improvement of the Peart Road frontage and the Cortson Road frontage. So as an alternative to the current restriction, staff has recommended a new condition of record which says that the half-street public right-of-way dedications abutting the PAD should be conveyed to the city by the property owner upon the city's request. What that would do is if we, the city, need the right-of-way for Peart Road or for Cortson Road or Colorado Street Extension in conjunction with a CIP project, that we could ask the developer to grant us that right-of-way, and they would have to do so. If the normal condition of the developer dedicating the right-of-way and building the streets at time of development still remains. So if the property develops before the city might be ready to improve Peart Road or Cortson Road or Colorado, the developer would still be required to do so. But if we're ready to move forward before development happens, at least we have the opportunity to get the right-of-way needed to construct those roadways. This item went through standard kind of notification. We mailed notices to all property owners within 300 feet of the Planning Commission hearing and of this hearing. We posted some signs and we ran notices in the dispatch. We did get some public feedback before Planning Commission. Miriam Gilbert did contact us and indicated she was not in favor of the multifamily use, citing the impact on Cortson Road and the traffic impact on the school. Miriam Gilbert did communicate to us. After the Planning Commission, a resident in Mission Valley also raised some concerns about the multifamily and additional development near Peart and Cortson due to the accidents and the traffic on both those streets, on Cortson and Peart, until the streets were actually improved. And then lastly, a former planning commissioner has expressed concerns and sent correspondence to council regarding the minimum lot width and area requirements for the area, for the single family area. The Planning Commission, after holding their public hearing, did vote unanimously to forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this PAD amendment with just 3 conditions of record. One, that it be the single-family area be reflected in one preliminary plat at time of development, the right-of-way dedication that I referred to, and the requirement that a master drainage report be submitted prior to any major site plans and plats associated with this PAD amendment. So that concludes my presentation, Mayor.
Okay, I think that the developer's representative is here, and would you like to say anything, Ms. Guthrie?
Mayor McFarland, council members, good evening. For the record, my name is Jackie Guthrie, 19710 West Black Knob, Casa Grande. And I have a presentation. I'd like to thank Mr. Tice for his thorough presentation, so I will go quickly because as planners, we seem to talk about a lot of the same things here. We have a 74-acre parcel at the northwest corner of Courtson and Peart. The property was purchased by the current property owner, Dale Willis, who's in the audience with me, in July of 2005, and was rezoned to the original PAD in July of 2005. So he has owned this property for a long time, waiting for the market to come to fruition, waiting to get past the recession so we can make something happen here. The general plan is neighborhoods. We're not requesting any changes. The zoning is PAD. We're not requesting a change. Under the land use designation, we're requesting to go from 74 acres of single family to 54 to allow the change of 20 acres to multifamily. The half-street dedications that were required in 2004 when the first PAD was approved was 55 feet for Courtson and 55 feet for Peart, none for Colorado. So this change is providing additional right-of-way to the city at the time it's required. Courtson is now 70 feet, Peart 70, and Colorado Street 40. So there's quite a bit of land that will be dedicated to the city for those adjacent roadways. Okay, we know where the project is, the original site plan that was approved in 2005, and our proposed site plan. The minimum lot sizes on the existing plan, as Mr. Tice pointed out, were 55 and 65. We're asking, as we take out 20 acres of the 55s, for the remaining parcel to be minimum 55, and that's all it is a minimum lot size, because with the mix that's required through the PAD, we will have a mix of lot sizes 1-to-1. This exhibit just shows the conceptual landscape plan, the perimeter landscape, the landscaping along this, the north edge, which is the city's future trail system in the Santa Cruz Wash, and then a park in the middle of the site with trail going south to the multifamily and then north to the trail system. We've seen this graphic. Just to point out, we are in the Casa Grande primary growth area, which is the area within the city that has infrastructure that will support growth for the next 15 years. So we are consistent with the general plan and the growth area map. In relation to the multifamily housing demand, when we went in front of the Planning Commission last month, within one day of going in front of them, we did call several of the apartment complexes in town to verify the requirement, the need right now for multifamily. And you can see on the chart, which honestly I can't from here, the low vacancy rates in at least 6 of the complexes here in town. In one case, 0 vacancies. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We are in agreement with the staff's recommendation and the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission and the 3 conditions that are attached.
Can I, when we're talking about the multifamily, can you describe that? What's the average square footage, the amenities?
The multifamily Now, we're not talking about product tonight. We don't have a developer.
Okay.
I mean, the intent of doing the rezoning is to be able to have a 20-acre multifamily site that then can then be marketed
Okay.
to potential developers. And I will tell you that they have already been approached by 2 different multifamily builders that are at least interested in talking to them without even having our approvals completed.
And was traffic the main, with the Gilberts and that was their main problem, was additional traffic?
I was not contacted by Mrs. Gilbert. I know that she contacted the staff and was concerned with the traffic, I was told, on Courtson. If you look at the small area transportation study, which I kind of went past quickly, Courtson will eventually have an interchange, as you know, with a freeway. It has been increased to 140-foot wide principal arterial. That road will carry a lot of traffic. It's not going to be the same road in the future that it is today.
Okay.
Lisa?
Jackie, can you explain a little bit further on the 55-foot minimum lot size? So it's not that they're going to for sure have so many lots with that size, right? It's just the minimum?
That's the minimum lots.
And so every time they have a minimum of a 50-foot, they have to have another lot, an equal number of over, what is it, 8,000?
Anything under
Yeah,
7,000.
8,000. So it's kind of like spreading that diverse, inventory, it seems though, even though I think Paul said that you can't really, at this point, we can't say where those lots are going to be, but most likely they will be separated out, because that's how it's been in the past.
That would be the standard development approach.
Okay.
To segregate them into 2 different areas, yes.
Okay, but we're not saying there's a certain number that are going to be 55 foot.
Not at this point.
Right, at this point.
The next step in this process would be to prepare the preliminary plat to
Okay.
bring to the Planning Commission, where staff will review that plat meets all of the code requirements from lot size, setbacks, street widths, open space.
Okay. And then Paul, do you have what, I know it's hard, to say what square footage house would go on a 55-foot lot, but can you give us an idea? I mean, I know there's different elevations and, everything. I know all that comes in, but are we talking like just to give us an idea? I know in our notes it said an average of a 35-foot home would go nicely on a 55 square foot or foot lot. So can you give us an idea of what type of product we're looking at?
Councilmember Fitzgibbons, I can tell you some things about that, but not everything. So here's what I can tell you. Because at a 55-foot wide lot that has side yard setbacks of 5 and 10, the widest house you can put on it is 40, okay? We know that. There are certain setbacks, obviously front and side as well, back, rear, and front. So, but realistically, you could, you might put a house, depends if it's a 1-story or 2-story, but it could range anywhere from 1,200 to 2,400 square feet. That's probably what the range realistically is.
Okay.
So somewhere in there. I mean, and that's sort of what you might see being built in different neighborhoods today in Casa Grande by the builders.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jackie?
Just comments, or you?
Well, I'm gonna throw open public, it's a public hearing, so you
Okay.
wanna save your comments till we're done?
You're fine.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, so this is a public hearing. So on item L1, if there's anybody in the audience who would like to approach the podium and just state your name, and please try and keep your comments to 3 minutes, legally 5.
Mike Henderson, my address is 1343 East Kingman Place in Casa Grande.
Hi, Mike.
I probably can stay within 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor and Council, because I think Paul stole most of my thunder here. This is about a particular PAD, but it's more about the Pier corridor and pride of place. A lot of people are going to see this. We would like the people who live here and love it to think that it's good, and we would like the people who are thinking about coming here to live, to make a business, we would like it to make an impression on them too. So it's a bigger issue than just this one thing, but this one thing counts. And I guess I need to say that the larger issue in this consideration is the lot size and the lot width. And we'll come to some more on that. But for the Bella Vista part of this, there are really 3 parts or 4, depending on the road. The first one is the commercial, which is an excellent idea, and I hope that there won't be any question about that. The second one is the multifamily housing. As you mentioned, Councilman Fitzgibbons, we really, really need this stuff. We haven't built an apartment facility of any size in 10 years. There are waiting lists, everybody's full. The layout of the apartment facilities and the multi-housing facilities haven't followed the growth of the city. So we just need to get this done. And this is an excellent place. It's a good corner. It's going to have access to a lot of things. It's close to some schools. It's going to be probably on a transit route before very long. It's going to be very close to the rec center. Terrific place for that kind of housing. The thing that I want to be concerned about, and also the road arrangements that Paul mentioned, I think we're all in agreement on that. The third aspect that I'd like to talk about and ask you to not approve it as it's proposed is to not do the 55-foot lots hard and fast now, because we have a lot of lots in this city that are ready to build. We're not going to build on this one for quite a while, and we don't know what the plan will be, how clear it will be up and down this corridor. We just know it's important. So I would suggest that for that particular part of this proposal, we not tie down lot sizes. We have plenty of time to do that, and I hope that you will suggest or change the legislation to make it so that we can do that later. We're going to have plenty of time. If anybody has a question of me, I'm happy to try and answer it.
Can you just clarify the last statement that you made? So what you're saying is that as far as everything else, it's just the lot width, and that we can approve this and basically set aside that requirement for the time being and then come back to it?
Yes, it can come back through planning whenever it's necessary to do it. We don't have a very good idea now what the city really needs from that. So my proposal is to just not do anything with it. There are pretty specific areas, plots on that diagram, and I think it's easy in the prerogatives that are available to the council to just leave that piece out and leave it to do later. When we have a better idea of what our plans are going to be, our future is more clear.
Thank you, Mike. I do have a question of you, Mr. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward? John? State your name.
John McGuire, 941 East Penny Lane. First of all, I'd like to publicly add my comments to what I've made to Mr. Henderson personally and at Planning and Zoning meeting last week, that I appreciate all the service he's given to the city of Casa Grande over the 8 years that he's been on the Planning Commission. He's an excellent member, knows how to run a meeting very well, and always has the best interests of the city at heart when he's making his decisions and his comments on things. So I wanted to get that out publicly in front of the council as well. On this particular issue, I disagree with Mr. Henderson, and he knows this. As you all know, I'm a pro-growther. I believe we need to start getting things in the city moving again back to the way it was planned to be in the mid-2000s. And especially in the north of Cottonwood section, we need to really start to get some things moving. Ms. Guthrie mentioned that the property owner here has been waiting 13 years to be able to do something with this land that he purchased in 2005. And I'm a believer that the market can dictate what should go here. I understand Mr. Henderson's concerns that he has the global vision of what the city is going to be like in the long term. But my worry, frankly, is that if we start to put too many restrictions on, he's getting interest in this land and this property now for development, something I support, and it might not happen because we start to put restrictions that the market is not ready to support yet. And so I think we should, Mr. Tice has explained pretty well that there will be a balance between the smaller lots and the larger lots, and that's typically the way it goes. We've had that PAD requirement in place for a very long time, and Mr. Powell mentions it frequently during these kinds of discussions. So I think we should just go ahead and follow staff's recommendation for approval of this, and I won't get up at the next one because the same issues are going to come up, and I will feel the same way about the Bella Vista PAD, or the G Diamond rather, PAD as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I do want to echo John's comments too to Mike, and thank you for your service and all your time that you've given to the city. It's definitely appreciated and has not gone unnoticed, so thank you. And I know your due diligence is beyond anybody's work in the past, so thank you. I do have a question, Paul. Is there anybody else who would like to come up? We have the public hearing still. Okay. Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing, and then I'm going to throw this back to council. But before I do, I have a comment and a question of you, Paul, on this project. How, if this piece isn't put into it, meaning if the 55-foot wide lots, excuse me, I know it's a mouthful, because in essence, if you took half of this area and made it 55, and the other half would have to be bigger lots, right?
Yes, for every lot that's 55 feet wide,
You probably have
one
an
that's either
equal
65
number
to
of
70.
65, 70-foot lots. So there's no way all these are going to be 55-foot lots.
It would be impossible.
Okay,
basically.
so then the other question is, if we put this restriction or don't do this in here, how does that affect his ability to sell the land?
Mayor, I'm gonna tell you what the implications are if we don't modify the single-family area. How it affects the sale, I can't tell you, but I can clarify what the implications are.
Okay.
So you can see in this graphic in front of you, the current zoning for Area A is where the 55-foot wide lots currently are approved. That's 33 acres. 20 acres of that is gonna go to multifamily. So what the remnant is about 13 acres of 55-foot wide lot minimums that he would be left with. Also, if you make no change, Area B will stay just like it is today, and that's 43 acres. So what the applicant will be left with is 43 acres of lots that are 65-foot wide minimum, and 13 acres of area that he can put 55-foot wide minimum lots. So that's the implication. You know, as he goes to develop it, I guess what would happen is he would not be able to reach his 50-50 balance. In the end, probably there would be like 70-30, 30% 55 and 70% 65. That's what the implications would be.
Okay, so the number of houses that he could get in here would be greater if we allow the exception, because they could split it basically 50% of the acreage 55-foot wide and 50% of the acreage 65 to 70-foot wide lots.
Slightly larger, slightly greater, yes.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Matt?
A comment.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that the multifamily isn't really part of the objections of anybody that we heard tonight. Just the traffic, and I know they'll have to do a traffic impact, and plus, I mean, widen the road, so we shouldn't really see in it. I mean, it'll be more traffic, but we'll have more lanes to accommodate that. And it's definitely needed in town. And I also want to tell Mr. Henderson, appreciate all of his work and everything over the years. He knows a lot about planning and does a lot of work on it. And I know that he has the best, the best for the city at heart. And the neat thing is him recognizing this corridor. This is where our recreation center is going to be, already under construction, and it'll be nice to have a good mix of homes and people that can use that easily. So from what Paul just said, if we go with this proposed PAD, I mean, we're doing then 49 acres of 55-foot lots, with each one has to have a bigger one, right?
For every 55,
Instead
you have to have a bigger
of 33 acres of 55-foot lots and 42 acres of 65-foot lots. So we'll have a better mix of lots in the smaller area, 49-foot net area. Plus they're giving up, how many acres is that they're giving up for the right-of-ways? About.
I haven't not calculated it, but I believe Jackie Guthrie said like 8 or 9 acres maybe, I guess.
I don't remember exactly, but yes, in that area.
Okay.
It's that whole length, this
Yeah.
whole length, and that whole
I mean, it
length.
adds up 15 more feet
Right.
along everything, adds up quite a bit.
Yep.
And of course, I love the commercial on the corner because that creates revenue.
Mr. Powell, I know you had the comment you want to make.
I think one of the things that I like about the change in plans is Courtson's going to be one of the most powerful arterials we have when it's in place. And you're going to get a lot of traffic on it, and that's going to be either impressive or not impressive, depending on what's there to the people that drive by, because it kind of sets the tone. And I think the first one, where you had all the 55 sitting out there, and they think, well, this is small Homeville. But the second one, where you have the commercial on the corner, and then you have the multifamily, which we do need, that disappears. And as you drive down, you see multifamily and the commercial. And as you go north, probably, we haven't seen the platting, and I know, Paul, you said that's going to be one of the key issues is how it's platted when it does come up. And Mike's absolutely correct about markets can change, and you just don't know quite what will happen. Just a question, if they decided they wanted to change this after it had been approved, can they get a change to that, Paul?
Applicants can always propose a amendment to their PAD. It would come back through this same kind of process. But, so yes, the answer is yes, they could come back. But you don't need a change if you're going to build bigger than the minimums. You know what I mean? So if the market changes and everyone wants 80-foot wide lots, this whole thing could be 80-foot wide lots. You know what I mean?
Minimum requirement.
This is a minimum requirements. And so they could not come back and ask for something smaller than 55-foot minimum, because that's already your minimum standard. So yes, they could ask for amendments, but I don't really see an amendment within the single-family area coming forward in the future.
Well, and I know you'd said until you see the platting, you don't really know what's going to be what. And Jackie, any idea at all when this would try to come out of the ground soon or after a while, or?
I don't have any idea currently, but we are seeing a lot more demand. I mean, as a realtor in town, every time we have an office meeting, and this last Friday, it was Brown Homes. We have a new home builder coming in and talking about their new development and their new projects, and they're coming in and they're doing infill on a lot of these projects that went dead in 2008.
Which is good.
And some of the other home builders up in the valley are going to want to create their own neighborhood, their own lot size, and bring their own houses in, not be coming in and putting 20 lots in the middle of a subdivision that's already been developed by somebody else. So, I mean, I can't look at the crystal ball and say exactly when, but that demand is building.
This already has its water certificate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, to get the final plat, each of them would have to, all the plats would have to have water.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, as I say, I think that, I think the way it's set up, and I know Mike and I had talked earlier about phasing on the other projects, some of the, and I think starting next to the road with the multifamily and the commercial, as I said, I think is good. And if we're gonna have the smaller homes, I like them in between. And as you drive by on the outside, and then I think the, anything under 7,000 square feet has to be on a lot over 8. And some of these might make 6, but 6 is under 7. So the whatever amount you have under 7, they have to have the same amount over 8. Correct. And Paul has stuck very strongly to that, and is it's a favorite thing of mine too. So, but I think it really gives us some diversity in the community, and I'm not opposed to what they're doing, but I do understand what Mike's saying as far as if we're not that close to it, do we plan it or change it? But if we have the ability to change, I think that's important. And you see a lot of these phases come and go. A lot of things happen. So I really don't have an issue with it. I would also like to say I think Mike is probably the most outstanding planning and zoning member we've ever had on there, truthfully, with the research he does and as much checking as he does, as much arguing as he does with me. And, and that's, I just have the most respect for him, and I know, Jackie, that you do too. And so that answers my questions. I think that by having not Smallville like it would have been on the other one, that this is going to have a lot more street appeal as we have people going by. How far up is Colorado going to go?
At least to Rodeo. It already goes,
okay.
It already goes north of Rodeo, so, you know.
Probably not to McCartney, or?
It's difficult to get it to McCartney,
Okay,
but.
okay,
we can-
but you can get to Rodeo?
We can get it north of Rodeo, yes.
Okay.
I want to reiterate that I agree almost 100% on what Mr. Powell was saying as far as having, and particularly this, what we're starting with here is essentially bare land. We're taking a look. This is a lot different than maybe some of the other projects that we have where there's homes already built, people living in them, people who paid prime prices, and then the fear of being surrounded by smaller homes, less expensive homes. And I also agree very much, we do very definitely need that multifamily housing. I think it's very appropriate. I agree with what you say as far as coming up on the road, because perception is, is very important. I don't want to see our town considered like, well, if you want a small house or whatever, just go south and go to Casa Grande and get it. I want to be a whole eclectic group of things. But I do like this. I had some concerns on the WIS. I looked at it. I talked to some folks on it. I drove by there and that idea. And I do disagree. There was a statement that someone had made that, and it is important to see to what you see. I'm concerned, though, that that's not just the important thing. We do need to look at the depth. The depth has to do with quality in that, too. And so as time goes on, I'm concerned with depth as much as I am with width.
Anybody else? Ralph?
Yeah, and I think it's just a great balance. And even when we think about 55 feet, some folks have a perception that they're small houses and so forth, but that was the first house I had in Rancho Grande, and I thought I was in heaven. It was our first house we ever had. So that opportunity to mix those with the bigger houses, and definitely when my daughter went shopping for apartment, there is very limited. I mean, she was lucky to be where she's at, but I think it's just a good balance, and it does add to the diversity of that area.
And you said that, so well, that's, exactly how I'm thinking right now. I think, I don't have a problem with small homes. I think the demand is there. There's people that want a small home for whatever reason. They want to travel more. They don't want the maintenance on the house. So I don't think it brings a different element to a neighborhood. So I really do like this amended plan, because I understand your point, Councilmember Powell, as far as, you have it, kind of tucked in the middle there, and then you have the larger lot sizes. But I really don't have a problem with the small lot sizes either, because I think having that diversity, there's people, I've gotten questions and concerns all the time, I'm sure all of you have, on multifamily and the small lots. Recently I had two friends that are divorced and trying to, find a place to, you know, with their single income and can't afford a 3,000 square foot home, and the inventory is pretty limited. And so, you know, these are the type of people that will be looking for smaller homes too, things that they can afford. So, you know, yeah, my husband and I started in a small house, and we thought we were in heaven too. So I'm really pleased with this amendment, and I'm excited to see, and I really hope it moves forward pretty quick too.
Donna?
You know, and I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said, but I think the important thing here is that, you know, I had all of my questions answered because of people like Mike Henderson, because of Jackie, because of the staff, and I think the P&Z Commission has done an excellent job. And one of the things that we have to realize is there is a need, and we can't predict in the future, but we can always go back and look at this again. But I think that it is comparable to what we need in Casa Grande right now, and I think that if we have somebody that is willing to step up and make this happen, then we need to look at that, because that's what we're hearing from the public, that they need affordable housing. This will be affordable housing. So, thank you.
180 to over 200,000.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll call for an ordinance number, please. Gloria?
Ordinance number 1178.229.1, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving a major amendment to Bella Vista Estates, Casa Grande Planned Area Development adopted for property generally located at the northwest corner of Courtson Road and Peart Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move for approval of ordinance number 1178.229.1 as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Courtson.
I'm going to vote yes, but I'd also like to also extend my thanks to Mr. Henderson. He's been a guide, a font of information for me, and it's truly my hope that you'll continue to be a moving force in our community, and that you'll use a lot of your expertise to promote our community. And thank you.
Councilmember Varela.
Mike, thank you. Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Well, I heard that Mike's going to run for mayor after you turn it on, so be careful. I vote yes.
Good luck, Mike.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay, item L2. This also is a public hearing and in consideration of another major amendment to G Diamond Ranch. Mr. Tice.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So this is a very similar request for an amendment to the G Diamond Ranch PAD just to the south, in the southwest corner of Courtson and Peart. So, but it's only for a relatively small area of the G Diamond Ranch PAD. You can see the amended area outlined in yellow, so superimposed over top of the existing approved PAD on the left, and then on the aerial on the right. This change also is to modify, let's see, and just a second here, is to modify an area of, let me get the flashing off there. There we go. Modify an area of single family which currently is approved for 55-foot minimum lot widths and 70-foot minimum lot widths. You can see that area on the screen. The amendment is to take the southern portion of that and convert it into multifamily, and then 22.21 acres, and then to modify the remaining single-family area to 55-foot minimum lot widths. Just like the other example, even though these lot widths here are minimum 55, which meets our minimum standards for code, any lot that would be created that would have less than 7,000 square feet would have to be matched with one that contained over 8,000 square feet. So in reality, what we would end up with is some number of lots that are around 55 foot wide and a number of equal number of lots that are 70 foot width ish that equates to them. Just going to go through some of these here quickly here with you. Okay. So just like the Bella Vista, the same list of criteria apply that we have as staff have evaluated for compliance. We found that the proposal meets all of these criteria. We're just going to talk about those four pretty quickly for you. In terms of the context and how this fits from a compatibility standpoint, staff found that the proposed multifamily would fit very well with the surrounding land uses. Again, to the south on that hard corner of Peart and Cottonwood in this case, we also have commercial zoning. Over in that corner of Colorado and Cottonwood, we have the existing Mission Heights High School, and just north of that, a recently approved church site that's currently vacant. So those are the surrounding land uses on to the south of that multifamily. If we go to the east, we have Peart Road. Across the road, we have Cliche, and then we have a vacant area of Mary T. Villas. As you're familiar with the existing Mary T. Villas, it's a mixture of smaller multifamily buildings. There's a vacant area that is very similar in nature. It's already approved, and in fact, Mary T. is talking to us about actually starting development on that in the very near future. So across the road on Peart, we would also have multifamily. To the north of the multifamily, we have the area of single family that is being proposed for modification within the G Diamond. For general plan, this site also is within our neighborhoods land use category. Again, single family allowed at densities up to 4.5 DUs per acre, and multifamily allowed on sites less than 25 acres with a max density of up to 18 DUs per acre, and both of the proposals meet those criteria. We talked about there are some 2003 residential design standards that this project also needs to meet. We've evaluated those. The height and for the multifamily is limited to 2 stories, and then just like the Bella Vista, we've imposed the same height requirements with a max height of 35 feet, but if you're within 50 feet of the north boundary adjacent to single family, the height for those buildings is limited to 28 feet, and also imposed a 20-foot landscape buffer along that common property line between the multifamily and the single family to assure compatibility with those 2 land uses. Same graphic that shows you the step down of the structure height of the multifamily as you get closer to the single family and the landscape buffer. The other PAD design standards that are in play here are the minimum lot width of 55, and that is our standard. So they aren't asking for any variances. 55 is in fact our minimum. 6,000 square feet is the minimum lot size. However, for any lot less than 7,000, you have to have an equal number of lots that are 8,000 square feet or larger. Same side yard setbacks and same minimum open space. Again, staff has recommended as a condition of record that this entire single-family area be reflected in one preliminary plat so that we can ascertain that all of those PAD design standards are in fact met by doing a very specific lot count. You may be aware that the Gilberts did in fact do a map of dedication dedicating the right-of-way on the west side of Peart from O'Neill north to Courtson, so we can make the road improvements in that area as well as the O'Neill Drive right-of-way. But we still need some right-of-way from this site eventually for Peart Road from O'Neill to just north of Cottonwood and the Colorado extension. So same code section applies, 1532.060, that will require the developer to dedicate that right-of-way and make those half-street improvements at time of development. But in case we might need that road right-of-way prior to that, we are recommending a condition of record that requires the developer to dedicate that right-of-way to the city from Peart or Colorado at such time as we may need it and before development occurs, if that possibility comes to fruition. Let's see. I'm missing, let me see. There's the standard public notice. Let's see. We actually did a little bit more public notice on this application. We did an application and review, which means we sent notices even before the public hearing to try to get some feedback. We sent it to the HOA and all property owners. We really got no response from the application and review notice. At the public hearing notice, we did get some response. Here's what it is. We got a walk-in asking about the multifamily. A resident from Highland Manor called who was not in favor of the multifamily use, so close to their neighborhood. Did not want Section 8 apartments, of course, which don't exist anymore, and not pleased with the traffic on the rec center due to the road improvements. Mr. Henderson, being a former planning commissioner, did also contact city council and staff and advocated some alternatives to the 55-foot minimum lot widths. And so the planning commission did recommend approval for the proposal for this whole single-family area to be 55 minimum width lots, of course, which would be paired with wider lots in the future. But after consideration, after hearing Mr. Henderson's concerns, the applicant did indicate to us that they are going to propose or willing to propose an amendment to their proposal to introduce two areas. One where it designates the area for the 55-foot minimum lots and the south part of the project, and the 70-foot minimum lot widths with the larger lots on the north side, essentially splitting the acreage, a little bit less acreage in the 55s and a little bit more acreage in the 70-foot area, so in addition to making sure that we would have the equal number of lots smaller than 7 and lots over 8, that you could see spatially where they would be located, with the smaller lots closer to the multifamily and the larger lots up closer to O'Neill. I believe the applicant's going to propose that formally during their presentation. The Planning Commission did vote on a 6-1 to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for this zone change with just 2 conditions. One, that the entire single-family area be reflected on one preliminary plat, and 2, the right-of-way dedications, half-street right-of-way dedications abutting the PADs can be conveyed to the city upon the city's request. That summarizes my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tice. Does the council have any questions with Mr. Tice? Okay. Jackie, you have something you want to share?
Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Tice has already shown you the graphic that we presented as an alternative to just having one large parcel of 55-foot wide lots. We appreciate the staff's recommendation of approval of our case and the recommendation from the commission, but also in deference to some concerns. The difference between G9 and Bella Vista is there are some existing neighborhoods already there established, and also to the north, the lots in that area are 1/2 and 1 acre in size. So in order to buffer those larger lots, we are in agreement to putting half of the parcel in 70s on the north half, and then putting the 55-foot wide lots on the south half adjacent to the multifamily. It was actually unusual to me that the original PAD had the smaller lots up against the half-acre lots. That didn't make sense. So I think we're improving the plan, and we're also taking care of some concerns in the community about providing that buffer. So without going through the full presentation, I'm just open to other questions that you may have.
Mary?
I just want to thank the developer for listening to what has been said to us on the community and being willing to make those changes, so express my appreciation.
I will pass that on to him. He had
Yes.
a blowout on the freeway up in Ahwatukee.
Oh, dear.
And did not make it to tonight's meeting. So.
They always do what Jackie says. So.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't going to say.
I wish.
Any other questions of Jackie?
I like the plan just personally, but it's not a question, it's a statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the floor to public comments. This is on item L2, the approval of major plan amendment to G Diamond Ranch. Is there anyone in the audience who is here to speak about that?
I wasn't planning to. Peter Redwine again. I live in Cottonwood Ranch, just adjacent to G Diamond, and we've seen some resurgence of building there. But you know, as somebody who lives in that same square mile, at least, the way they've laid this out, I don't have any opposition to it. I've lived in that neighborhood for 8 years, and especially if it gets Colorado and O'Neill finished, you know, and alleviates some of the traffic nightmare around Legacy. I think this could be a very good thing. And, you know, they've got to lay it out in a way that makes sense financially. And I work in a lot of our apartment complexes around, and they're right, there's very little vacancy. And if they build it, you know, in the quality of Tierra Point up on Rodeo or something like that, there's multifamily doesn't have to detract from a neighborhood or a development.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
you know, as long as they are able to maintain that kind of build standard for the multifamily, I think this could be a very good thing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hedgeson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just want to say that I really appreciate everybody's consideration, everybody's time that was spent looking into this, everybody's being late for dinner. I think it's a good solution, and I think it shows that since there's this natural dichotomy between developers who have a shorter view and cities that have a longer view, it's hard to come to a conclusion that really works. I think we did it this time, and I just commend everybody for having gotten it done.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, then I will close the floor, and are there any other questions?
Statements now, no.
Mary?
Lisa?
I'm Lisa.
I'm sorry, you got the
Change your
tip.
hair color or
It's
something.
right there.
You just called me
I'm so
Mary.
sorry.
I'm the one
For the
with
100th
bangs.
time. Anyway,
50th maybe.
Mike, really, I really, really appreciate your attention to detail on all of this. I mean, you've, been a constant, you're just representative, of the community, and you really pay attention as a commission member. This is your personal time that you're dedicating, and you take it so serious. And, I agree. I think this is a nice solution. And it wouldn't have happened if you didn't express your concerns. I mean, it may have, and I think that it's probably achieving what would have had to be done, but at least we're designating the, where it's going to happen, and I think we're all comfortable with that, how it's going to flow. So, but no, really, I think this is a nice solution, and I appreciate all your time, and I'm on the transit committee with you, and he does this, the little, attachment he gave us, come on, Paul, have you seen this, that what he gave us? It's pretty good, but no, your attention to detail and explain it, and I just really, really appreciate it, and we're gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss seeing all your notes and comments and everything on the P&Z minutes, so, but I think this is a nice solution here.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I just want to reflect, you know, Mike has always been a professional, a gentleman. We do have his expertise on the trust board. He is the chairperson for that I get to sit with him on, and so his service will be continued.
Good. Yes,
So, not to belabor, but Mike, a lot of things are better because of what you did, and this is a good example of making something better, you know? And then, so don't bring up the statue yet, or? But another neat thing he taught me, and I think this is important, is this term that we were talking about is aspirational homes. And I think that's a neat thing to have in this area, in this community is, you know, you're living in this section, you say, hey, I want to live in that section over there, so I want to make it better here so that I can move up, you know, and now that I live in a bigger home, I wish I lived in a smaller home because the kids are gone now. You probably the same, Lisa, right? But anyway, but it makes a lot more sense too because the sizes just go from acre, half acre down to the 70s. So makes perfect sense. Thank you. And I'll quit belaboring it.
anyone else like to labor it? Mr. Powell?
Of course. It's his birthday.
I just, this layout is basically what Mike drew out and presented to me. Jackie went along with it fine, and of course, the guru, Mr. Guru did. And I think the phasing in where you have you have commercial and the high school and the church all there, and then you have multifamily, and then you have some of the smaller homes and some of the bigger. And by the way, I've struggled greatly to approve a 55 with phone, but I do. I know that they're in demand and that they serve a price. I don't know that they're affordable necessarily, but they are there. But I'm glad that they've been broken up so we don't have a huge area that's just small houses, because that's not what we want to achieve. But I think it was done very well, and I had the benefit of getting to meet with both of them about 3 or 4 times, and I think it turned out really well. And I thank Paul very much, because when he went in there, he explained a lot of what was going on, so.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, then I will call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria. Item L2.
Mr. Mayor, before you vote, if you want to implement the graphic on the right, you're going to have to add another condition to the PAD, because that's not in the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay.
Okay?
Once the ordinance is read, if anybody desires to move it with that condition, we can do it then, and I'll read the proposed that I drafted while we were doing this into the record. But we do need an ordinance number first.
Okay. Ordinance number first, please.
Ordinance number 1178.194.4. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Arizona approving a major amendment to G Diamond Ranch, Casa Grande Planned Area Development, adopted for property generally located at the northwest corner of Cottonwood Lane and Peart Road, Casa Grande.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of the amended, is that what I should say? Amended, or I don't know what to
So,
say.
if I could, you have 2 options. You can certainly move the ordinance as it was originally presented. If you'd like to move it with a condition that imposes what the applicant has proposed, what I would suggest, I'm trying to pull the ordinance up, is that we would add condition number 3
Okay,
to read, and Paul's going to hopefully shake his head at me since I've done this like while we were sitting here.
okay.
The PAD shall be amended, comma, with language and exhibits as approved by the Planning and Development Director, comma, to reflect a minimum lot width of 55 feet in the area designated as such, and to reflect a minimum lot width of 70 feet in the area designated as such in Exhibit B of this ordinance, attached hereto and incorporated herein by this reference.
Do I need to write all that?
As just
Say
read.
all that? Yeah.
As stated.
As just stated,
Right.
there
If
you
you're in
go.
agreement with that, you
Yes.
can move it with the amendment that I just
Okay.
read.
That's right.
That's part
I
of what you
move
said,
with the
wasn't it?
amendment that you just read.
That's exactly what you said, Lisa.
Yes, condition number 3, you
Can I
said.
get a second?
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can you get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes?
Councilmember Cortzen,
Yes.
Councilmember Varela,
Yes.
Councilmember Powell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, so L2 is approved with the amendment as stated. All right. Next, then, we're going to go to item N, which is reports. So I will start to my right. Lisa?
He looked at the
Which
list.
We moved it so it's more visible.
Just a couple things. So the Emergency Assistance Ministry is hosting the Mayor's Breakfast tomorrow. It's nice and early at 7 a.m. at the United Methodist Church. I hope you guys can come and, meet our faith ministries. It's been so nice working with this group of people, and how they've been coming together and serving our community. There's so many different religions and, and people have different, beliefs, but they come together and serve the community. And so it's been a great group to be part of, so I hope you can join us. The mayor's going to be speaking. Katie, what's her name, Vasquez. Katie Vasquez, as you guys know, is doing the Shop Local campaign, and she has her next meeting on November 8th here in the council chambers from 5:30 to 7. So if anyone's interested, I think this is a very important initiative, to shop local and keep our dollars here. So I hope you can join on that committee. November 8th.
November 8th?
And then the third thing, I don't know when the last time any of you have been to the Humane Society, but, it's such a great place out there. I mean, it's sad, you go out, but we just adopted a dog out there a couple weeks ago, and it's just, there's so many animals out there that need homes. And so I hope before anyone goes and buys a animal, a dog, cat at the mall in the Puppies in Love, that they go out to the Humane Society first, because they have little puppies, they have kittens, they have all size dogs, and it's really my daughter's dog, which will probably end up being my dog. But we ended up with a beautiful puppy that's 8-9 months old. He's a big dog, but I really hope you get out there and give these animals a home, take them to your home. So that's it for me.
Donna?
Okay, a couple things, just wanted to mention, some of you were available when the Supreme Court came down and did an oral argument at Vista Grande High School. Chief Justice Bales was very complimentary about Casa Grande and our students and the reception that we had before that, so I wanted to mention that. Mayor's Reading Program is Wednesday. We do have our town hall coming up, and each of you received the paper that goes with that. That is Thursday. And that evening is the Bravo Awards, and we have that coming up at 6:30. And I did want to mention November 3rd, we have the Veterans Day Parade coming up. I wanted to let you know I'm not there, but only because we have 49 children being adopted that same day at the Pinal County Courthouse. So I will be there juggling my schedule with that, so carry on.
That's cool.
That's it.
Ralph?
I really wanted to mention the City of Casa Grande Arts and Humanities Commission, the Bravo Awards. That ceremony is this coming Thursday, and I think the real important part of it is that really it's about the arts and community, and how a community lends its voice through the arts, and I think it's a very special piece of our community. So I wanted to just mention that.
Okay. Larry?
Okay, Lisa. No.
I deserve it.
We've had a couple of things come before us in the last couple of years regarding, and one of the concerns has been the traffic congestion. And so for several years, I've become increasingly concerned that we as a city are creating severe traffic congestion. When the departments who are responsible to determine the traffic impacts on a proposed project, they make the determination through national standards, which I understand. I'm concerned that relying just on national standards is not enough, that we need to take into consideration the peculiarities of our city, such as increase in winter visitors, location of other businesses within a mile or a few miles. And I would like to make the suggestion that we have some sort of a study session, start taking a look at not just, I love standards, but to me a standard, that's the starting point. And then you go from there and you take into consideration what's personal with us. And so I would like to suggest that we do that. I also, the article in the Dispatch by Bill Coates was an interesting article and all. It's my hope that Greyhound will continue to seek a good place to locate that's more appropriate. The one thing I felt that was missing was the idea that the objection, and I know my objection, was not the type of people that were there. I didn't feel that I had enough for that. Mine was the traffic. Again, we're dealing with schools, we were dealing with housing, and so it was the traffic. It wasn't the type of people. And it's my hope that, and it looks, and I believe in our planning department, that they'll do everything they can to get Greyhound, which is very much needed by a lot of needy people here in our community. And I don't want to see CART threatened, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Couple things, a lot of stuff going on downtown right now. There's a neat, you can talk about the show, Mr. Powell, or should I say?
What's that?
The TV show?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, well, by all means. There was a great TV show on Cowboy Network last night about the Western Trading Post here in Casa Grande, and it featured, hey, downtown Casa Grande, had some local characters on it, Mr. Powell, but promoted Casa Grande, promoted the Western lifestyle, and a local business that's really trying to do something, help our downtown and stuff. So look for it on the Cowboy Network. It's going to be on Sunday evenings. So it was really entertaining to watch. It's kind of like
Is that CW?
No,
No, what is it?
Cowboy Network.
Okay. Oh, there's a Cowboy
Yes.
Network.
Oh, yeah. Interesting commercials, too.
Cowboys have networks,
Yes.
too.
November 4th downtown is the Mosaic Festival, which is
that's
Sunday.
right. Yep.
And it will be from Sackatone Street, in front of the museum there, down to Second, and then across the street at the museum and the Black Box Theater, all involved. So that's a free event on November 4th downtown. So bring the whole family, and there'll be food trucks and food.
I'll be cooking hot dogs.
And cooking hot dogs. And there'll be a lot of exhibits of art from around the state, around the city, interactive for kids, interactive for adults, music, and it'll culminate in the end of the afternoon with a tribute to our local Noel Kirkland, who was a famous musician around here. So it'll be a really neat event. And there's bands all day, and my wife's on the committee, so I know a lot. And the day before that is the Veterans Parade, as said. But after the Veterans Parade, in the park from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. is the Ride for the Warrior Music Festival. It'll be in Peart Park right after the parade. So that'll be a neat new venue for them and a neat thing to raise money for local things. The Neon Park is going in, and Rena has applications if you want to buy a license plate with your name or something on it, and those are due very soon. Last but not least, thank you to the sanitation department. They all left, Kevin, after you did your presentation, but they came and helped the youth commission on Saturday in the rain. We shredded papers, and right before we started, it really started raining hard. And so we bought the Dollar General store out of cheap ponchos, and I provided some, and we did a great job, and it mostly stopped raining for most of the event, just drizzled. It was wonderful. We raised over $1,250. So I think we weren't quite as busy because of the rain, but people felt worse, so they gave more money. Because the kids were out there in the rain. And they made a commercial, and we posted it online that day. It was a lot of fun, even in the rain. And again, thanks to First American Credit Union, they sponsor the cost of the shredding trucks, who did show up on time, so that really solidified that we were shredding paper that day, rain or shine. And again, the sanitation department, Kevin's group, they did the e-cycle there. And so it was just a great turnout and a lot of fun for the kids, and it's fun to be around them. So thank you to everyone who participated, and I'll be doing it again after tax day in April.
Mr. Powell.
You saw me on TV, I'll be signing autographs.
All right.
I just want to say thank you for the singing.
Maybe.
I think I was probably 7 years old the last time I was sung to, so that was kind of neat. And you just add a 5 to 7 now, and here I am. But it's wonderful to find out we have a St. Michael in our community now. And we have to honor you in some way, because
We do, yeah.
and watch out for him now. And as I say, I got a letter that I sent today, an email that I'm hoping is going to get to Senator Kyle regarding water and water representation, because it's really getting worse by the minute. And so that was where I was today, and I enjoy it, and I had a happy birthday. Thank you.
All right. Good. Well, happy birthday, Mr. Powell. I had a couple things. First of all, we have a couple grand openings tomorrow. It's Kangen Water Systems at 418 North Marshall Street. So if you haven't been there, want to show up, it's tomorrow at, I should have the
That
time.
one's at 10:30, I think.
Is it 10:30?
I don't remember, I think that one's in the morning.
10. And then Alliance Oncology is at 4:30, and that's at 1876 East Sabin. So if anybody's totally bored out of your mind and you'd like to come watch us cut a red ribbon, then please show up.
Big scissors.
Yeah, we have big scissors
What
and
kind of
everything.
business is the water business?
I think
Water
it's one of those
treatment?
water,
Water treatment? Oh, good.
some good news on Lucid. Everybody's kind of up to speed on Lucid, but that continues to move forward. We're going to have the breakfast tomorrow morning. LKQ probably should be opening here in the next 30 days. So that's a big deal. We're working on a redevelopment project with Main Street and the ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute, working with them to put together a study, basically. They're going to send in their experts. It's all volunteers, and they're experts from various fields that actually come in and help the city. It costs us $7,500, and we have 5 businesses that have donated $500 each to sponsor that. So I thank them. And that should be a really good study. Our study area is going to be basically downtown and city complex. So we'll reuse some of the old stuff like Life on Main and some other things that we're going to kind of make sure that they have pieces of it. Also, don't forget the Taste of Casa Grande is this Sunday also. It's Sunday the 21st, so that's going to be at Eva's. I think tickets are $40 a piece. 45. Or 45, is that what it is? So come on down. Hopefully it won't be raining. And next week I'm headed off to the beautiful town of Havasu City for the Rural Transportation Summit. So I'll be gone the second half of.
That's good. No, but I'm glad, no, that ought to be really good.
So I will be there. Community Center continues, 90% framed now? I think that was the report. They're still on target to finish by March?
Never. You always have 2
Oh, man.
months. You always
I'm
have
still
2
holding their
months.
feet to the fire. Just make sure you tell them that. Okay. All right, and that's all I have. So thank you, everybody. We're going to adjourn just quickly. Oh, can we want to go into executive session?
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, now we'll take a break. Thank you, everybody, for coming.